I want to show you how to turn one of these $2 reverb and delay modules into a really cool guitar pedal. Now these boards have been designed as an easy drop-in for mixing consoles. It's kind of crazy, but the exact same chip on this board is used in loads of boutique reverb and delay pedals. And the board quality here is actually really good as well. Now I'm not associated with this company at all. I just like to find cool things for you guys, and I thought this would be such a cool project, a really easy reverb and delay pedal. Now before we get into this, first have a listen to these quick fire sound samples. Okay, so we need to prep this board and get it ready to put in the enclosure. And it's actually pretty easy. First things first, there's a resistor there called R27. You can sort of see it down here next to this capacitor here, and you need to remove that. That is currently setting the time for the echo or the delay. So we're going to remove that out. Okay, so that is done. So the R27 is out. So now we can add a pot here to these extra poles here. I'll just show you on the side here. See the SGG, you can add a pot in there to change the time settings of this unit. So with our R27, you've got free reign over the time. Okay, so next we're going to pull off this pot. So same sort of thing, flip it over. Cool. So I just get a bit of solder on them and I just give it a bit of a wiggle like that. So next what we need to do is we need to clean up these holes here, get all the solder out of these 3 holes here, and at least 2 of these holes on this side. Let me show you. So at least 2 of these, at least the S and the G. We want to get those cleared out so we can put some wires in. So I'll get that done out and then I'll show you what I've done with the wiring. Okay, let's go through these connections. So firstly, let's start with the power supply up here. These are just screw terminals. So you've got your positive and negative connections here. On the positive rail, I put a diode in series. So that's part of my 2-in-1 power supply filtering and protection circuit. It's free download on my website, but it's basically a diode in series. I'm using a 1N5817 in series, and that couples with this 470 UF capacitor, 16 volt one. So that creates a nice power supply filter there. And then the other side is just your negative rail that goes to your ground. I'll show you inside. I'll do a quick wire up inside an enclosure as well. You've got your feed for your time control, and then another ground for that time control. Probably didn't need that one actually. Probably could have just looped it into the main ground. Coming around here, so I've got a wire underneath that is connected to the plus terminal for our in here. The other side is left unconnected because that is just our ground. We're just going to use our common ground. Then I've got 1 wire each for this pot here. This is our space control. That was the pot that was in there before that we removed. I just used some wires that I had lying around, different colors. I'm not really too worried. You probably should make the ground, I think this is the ground here, but you probably should make the ground black. It might be easier. And then our out terminal, the plus out terminal, I've also wired something to that as well. And that is it. So now I'm going to put it inside an enclosure and we'll have a quick run through of that to show you how that is all wired up. Okay, I've wired this up on one of my test enclosures just so it's easy to see where this wiring sort of goes. It can get kind of confusing in my main pedal here, which is quite tricky to sort of see where everything goes. So let's start with the power supply. Obviously that's just going to go to your positive and negative. So the positive is the long one, the negative is the short one. That's pretty easy to work out. Here's the time control. So that's my 50K linear pot there, this one. And I've got a 100 ohm resistor soldered between these 2 lugs, and then 1 wire goes to the outer lugs each. So you've got 1 wire going to that side, 1 wire going to that side. Super easy. It doesn't matter which way around those go. It's going to be totally fine. Here is my space pot. In the next section, we'll get into how it all sort of works and how you use this pedal. But anyway, here's my ground wire going from my ground lug here. There's the wiper, and there's the input wire there. All just connected to where this one was here. So it basically follows those same connections. Super duper easy. This is where I've routed my input and output wires. So here's my output wire. This would go to your switch here. And my input wire, this would also go to the switch. Just wire that the usual true bypass way up. Remember, I've got a free schematic on my website that shows you how I wire up true bypass. Then obviously your wires come out from the switch to your jacks, which would be here. But that's how the off-board wiring works. I've got a few mods in my one that I'm going to show you in the next section that I've just done to just enhance it a little bit and sort of spec it more to my liking. So let's hop into that next section where I'll show you how all these controls work and how the pedal actually functions. Right, let's go through and show you how all these controls work. Now, Plus members, I've got a schematic of this unit with all my mods included over on our website. It's also in the web shop if you just want to support the channel. Thanks heaps if you do. And there's also a Plus members video over there showing the inside of this unit and how everything's sort of wired up. Now, remember, if you like this sort of stuff, please hit the like button because it just lets me know that you like this sort of content and you want me to make more of it. Anyway, let's go through these controls. Okay, it's pretty simple. I've got the setup exactly the same as if you were to build it yourself as shown in this video. Now, time is pretty self-explanatory. It sets the amount of delay time. So if we set it low, it gives you that sort of sound. As you bring it up, let's go to half, it'll be more of a delay now. And then up on maximum. You can hear those sort of artifacts coming through, and that's one of the reasons why I added this little switch. The space control is really interesting. It adjusts the strength of the effect, but also the amount of repeats. So I've got my one set up so I can actually do infinite repeats. If I crank it up here, can do all that sort of crazy stuff. But if I set the time to about halfway, have a listen. We'll set it at minimum. It's just the same as bypass. Coming up a little bit. But see, you get more repeats and the effect is louder as well. It's quite cool. It works really well. Now, my switch here in the raised position, it gives more of that, I like to call it an Echoplex type sound. So it warms up those repeats, it gets rid of a lot of that noise. So on the same setting, I prefer that sound. So I added that in there because it's just something that I like. When I've designed delays and stuff around this chip, I always add this sort of mod because I prefer that sort of darker repeats that don't get in the way too much. A couple of really important things you need to know before building this is that this unit has a really low input impedance because it is designed for mixing console. So a couple of things you can do. You could build a really simple buffer inside the unit, which I'd recommend, especially if you're going to use it on your board. Or you can just do what I'm doing now, which is using a buffered bypass pedal and just running that in front of it. So simply running a buffered bypass pedal in front of the unit, and that way it sounds how it's supposed to sound. It could sound quite dark if you do it the other way around, which you might like anyway. The other really important thing is on startup, if you have the time set to minimum, what that does is it can make the chip actually latch up. It's not designed to start up with such a low time setting. So you do want to have the time set to about half when you start it up. It can just latch up the chip and then you just don't get any delay or anything like that. So a couple of really important things there. This is actually a really cool project. The quality, especially in those delays, is really good. Definitely put it on your must build list. It's something that I think you'll be really surprised with and something that you'll probably kick something else off your board. Anyway, guys, have a great week. We'll catch you in the next video. I'm literally just filming this bit of B-roll at the moment, and I know I'm going to get asked this in the comments, so I thought I'll just say it now. I might not even add this into the video. Maybe I'll just add it in right at the end for the like hardcore 10% that are still watching. But why did I call it the space potato? You know, I've been building pedals for over 20 years now, and I don't know about you guys if you're pedal builders out there, but I get sick of trying to name pedals cool names. You get completely over trying to come up with something really cool that encompasses what the pedal does and like a couple of short words. And so I just decided to call it something completely ridiculous like space potato, and I thought it was funny when I thought of it. I just had a bit of a laugh. So that is why it's called space potato. It's literally got nothing to do with anything apart from the fact I thought it was funny.